right now, but we have to understand what our role is going to be. More times often than not, people think, oh gosh, if something happens, the sheriff will come to my house, but that's not the case in a major catastrophe. Bystanders become first responders. So that means we need to learn to prepare. And, we put a lot of thought into planning when it comes to, we just had the holidays, we had Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, we've got tax season coming up, birthdays. But when it comes to disaster preparedness, a large majority of us are just completely frozen. And I've wondered about this for many years, and I've asked myself, why don't people prepare? And so I want to put it out to this group right now. Why do you think people don't prepare? Go ahead and jump in, unmute yourself. I want to hear from you.
I guess you think it's not going to happen to you.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's like trying to think about, what you want on your gravestone, right? Like you don't want to think about tragedy or danger or anything happening to you. And you have to, when you think about what to put in your kit or what to, it's too scary.
It is scary. And some people think it's too expensive and I don't have the time and I'm too busy. I mean, one answer, I did a presentation on Monday and a lady stood up and just said, well, I feel if I do prepare, that means something will happen. It's almost like jinxing it to happen. I've never heard that answer, but I mean, I've listened to a lot of, answers such as yours, and the subject of disaster preparedness, it isn't particularly appealing, is it? Some people think that those that prepare are overzealous, they're kind of nutty. You've seen the prep people that have the underground bunkers and the guns and the ammo, and I don't fault them for that, but they're ready, right? And so I can't fault that because they're ready, but I think that, the way that I look at disaster preparedness is looking at it as a way of life. As I'm going to give you all a lot of information during this time, try to think of ways as we're talking about little things you can incorporate, over the next few months so that you guys can get started on disaster preparedness. And the title of this presentation is The Empowering Benefits of Disaster Preparedness. And I really do believe that having this knowledge can inspire and empower you. It can, by preparing for a disaster, you can boost your confidence. It can reduce any fear and anxiety that you might have. It can strengthen your organization, whether it's your family unit, your business, or your service organization. And when you're preparing, you're taking care of your emotional health. So if something does happen, you're able to think more clearly. And I can tell you back in 96, I wasn't thinking clearly. I literally was just taking things off the walls. This was before cell phones, when you could have all your photos and all your information in your cell phone. But I was taking photographs off the wall, getting things out of the cellar. It was absolute panic and pandemonium. So, and you can influence the people around you and, vulnerable people with disabilities, those that live alone. And you can influence people such as your children or grandchildren by getting them involved in the planning. So it can be a good thing. And I try to preach this so that we can all understand that it doesn't have to be scary and it can be an actual positive thing. So, all right. So let's do a quick disaster preparedness 101. I like to divide disaster preparedness into a few steps, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of these, getting connected, knowing the disasters that can happen in our area. We pretty much covered that a couple slides ago. Knowing how to respond or prepare ahead of time for disasters. We're going to get into those winter storms. I want to hear about how you all prepared. We're going to talk about the disaster kit. Now, the disaster kit is just like the focal point. When people think about disaster preparedness, they think I have a disaster kit and I'm done, but that's not the case when it comes to preparedness. There's a lot more, as you can see. And the communication plan, which I find the most important step when it comes to disaster preparedness. So let's talk about getting connected. The way I see being connected is being connected through technology and also through learning opportunities within our area. Who here has heard of Alert Monterey County and has signed up for it? Anybody? Raise your hand. No? Okay. So a few. Robert, no? Okay. So Alert Monterey County is an emergency notification system through the Office of Emergency Services in Monterey. You go to alertmontereycounty.org, as it says so on the pamphlet right there, and you with your laptop and you enter your cell phone and your landline, if you still have it. Yes, I still have it in your email, and you get real alerts sent to your phone as things are happening in the Monterey area. So if you've done nothing at all for disaster preparedness, please go ahead and sign up for Alert Monterey County. Now, let's talk about cell phones being a role when it comes to being connected. Information is power, knowledge is power. It is so imperative that you have a heads up when it comes to disaster. It becomes the notifications and disasters. My notification during my fire was a man banging on my door. It worked, but while we can't be notified of every disaster, it's nice to be notified of the ones that we can. So what I've done on my cell phone is I've organized my disaster preparedness apps. Not everyone has to do this. This is just me. And so I definitely recommend to my clients that you download a good news app. Perhaps you watch KON or KSBW, but they have great alerts. In fact, sometimes they beat out OES when there's a wildfire that sparks. I have a lot of clients in the valley, and if I see that alert, I'll send them the message and say, hey guys, heads up. So that's a good tool right there. I definitely recommend that you download a good weather app. There's a Weather Underground, there's the Weather Channel. I don't know about you, but I don't know how closely you watch the bands and the weather systems, but you can actually look at the radar on some of these storms and kind of plan out if you need to head out for a little bit, if there's a break in the rain. So I definitely recommend that. My friends at the Red Cross have some great apps. They have a first aid app. They also have a pet first aid app. I also have MyShake. That's more of an interactive earthquake app. If you feel something, you can actually report it. And there's also MyQuake. So I definitely recommend, you don't have to load your phone with all of these, but I definitely recommend a few. There's also Purple Air, which I use during fire season to see what the air quality is. There's windy, there's so many. So unless you're an app nerd like I am in disaster preparedness, you don't have to have all these on your phone. So that's cell phones. Yes, Mary.
Can I offer two more apps?
Please do.
That let's see if you guys can see. The red one is called Windy.
Windy. Yep.
You know that one? We like Windy up here.
Windy's great. Yep.
Yeah, you can put in your GPS or your address and it'll tell you how strong the wind and the gusts are going to be when, and it goes like a week ahead of time,
Yep.
which we love. And then the Watch Duty one.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one has been pretty awesome, alerting us to when fires are sparking up within, close to your house.
Yeah, those are great apps. Thank you. I didn't want to overload you guys, but yeah, the Watch Duty app, and it's so neat because if you just during, when we have so multiple fires burning, you just kind of, scan out and you can see all the fires in California. It's just mind blowing. So that's cell phones right there. But if these cell phones aren't working, let's say our cell phone towers are wiped out, we need access to information. And that's why I recommend that all my clients have an AM/FM radio in your home. But if you want to take it a step further, I recommend this radio right here. It's a NOAA radio, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And it broadcasts weather reports from the National Weather Service 24 hours a day. We had this on the ranch, and that's how we gained our information. And why do you want one of these radios? Is because if something were to happen, we had no access to our cell phones or TVs, they will be able to use this platform to give us real-time information as far as what's happening in the event of an emergency. So it's an added insurance policy. This radio is called the Midland 310. It's on my website, apieceofmypreparedness.com. And it has an AM/FM radio. It's a NOAA radio. You just simply tune into the Monterey Marine Station. It has a flashlight, a dog whistle. It'll make you dinner. I'm kidding. It does everything. So it's about $60 on Amazon, and you can actually get it through my website. I don't make any money off of it, but if you just want to find it quickly, it's the Midland 310, and I absolutely love it. So, so those are just some ways to get connected. It's so amazing that just in the past 20 plus years, our access to information has increased. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. Now, I mentioned that learning opportunities is a twofold thing with technology, but also through learning opportunities. And so I recommend to my clients that they take a first aid class, at least one member of the family, or take a CPR class. Those are available through my friends at the Red Cross. If you need to get access to that, I have good links for you, so just let me know. I also recommend that you take a CERT class. This is a free class that is available in Monterey, and they have them about twice a year. And I'm going to let Scott talk a little bit about that for about 5 minutes or so and educate you guys just on what CERT is and what they do for the communities. It's all volunteer based and it's free. So take it away, Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Wanda. I learned something every time I've sat through your presentation. So thank you for having me join you today. Just a little background, both Wanda and I co-captained the team in Carmel. CERT has been around since, I think, 1993 it was founded, brought together a number of disparate groups who are out doing volunteer programs. It's now all organized under FEMA and the Office of Emergency Services. They provide a standardized training program that they put out. It's a 21-hour program. It covers fire safety, evacuation, extraction, a little bit of search and rescue. It goes into what we call MCI, mass casualty incidents and triage, and some other activities as it relates to sort of disaster preparedness. We are fortunate to have hundreds of teams now across the United States, and right here in the Monterey Bay, we have a very active team in Monterey, Pacific Grove, a new team in Big Sur, of course, us in Carmel, and a relatively new team in Carmel Valley. Our Carmel team, I think, Wanda, we put in something like 1,000 hours last year in deployments, from everything from managing beach closures when we've had some tsunami and high surf. We've been involved in some evidence searches. We've had some lost children, lost persons, adults at risk. We've been involved in also quite a few winter storms. This last couple of weeks, I think just our team in Carmel put in about 200 hours, and we were deployed as we do across multiple municipalities. We were in Pacific Grove for a few days. We've been in Monterey, certainly here in Carmel. And when everything really blew up on the 9th of January, on the Monday, across the peninsula, our team was deployed into Monterey at the Emergency Operations Center, and the fire chief at the time appointed Wanda to head up Incident Command. And that's when we had team members throughout the peninsula involved in damage assessment, managing closed roads, and also the evacuation of Carmel River, all the way from Camp Stephanie all the way to the lagoon. So the Carmel Valley team was very active. Our Carmel teams, PG, Monterey, everybody helped out, including the Big Sur team. I think we had one sheriff's deputy in Big Sur, and it was the Big Sur CERT team that managed the whole evacuation of the Big Sur River area. So again, there are courses that come out twice a year. Wanda, I don't have the dates in front of me, but there's a course that's starting in March. Is that correct?
It's actually February. It's 3 Saturdays. So
Okay, so it starts in February, and there's 3 consecutive Saturdays. I don't know, Wanda, if you can provide some information to the attendees after this session, if they want to sign up or reach out to Demetrius on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anyway, that's the background on CERT, and thank you, Wanda, for allowing me to join you.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott or I on that, or?
I was going to say maybe one of you could just put the link in the chat to find out more about the February CERT class.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you. And of course, when I do these types of talks, I always talk about the CERT class, but I also say, hey, everybody, join a Firewise group. So you all have done that. So I tip my hat. So it's wonderful. All right. So moving along, let's talk about. Pardon me. Okay. So how do we respond or even prepare for disasters? I'm going to go right to winter storms. That's the most prevalent thing in our minds right now. So we have our alerts and we have the knowledge that the storm is coming. And I'm just going to share with you what my routine is. Because Meredith, you talked a little bit about yours. And so before I knew these winds were coming, and, talking to PD and fire and get the teams ready. And I'm thinking, I got to get my house ready. I have to get my life ready. And so I do this little routine where I stand outside of my house and I find out what's going to blow away. And I make sure to secure any items that can blow around in any strong winds. So patio furniture, umbrellas, garbage cans, and the like, they can all become projectiles, end up in somebody else's yard and hurt someone. So I make sure that these are all properly stored. I also stand outside and I take a look at my gutters to make sure that the rain gutters and drains are clear to prevent any blockages. And as I'm outside, I'm like, you know what? I better get some gas for the tank. I don't know about you, but I'm a half tank girl. I always keep my gas tank at half a tank. And I hit the grocery store for any extra perishable items in case I lose power, so that I have enough food and water in my home. Then I go inside my house and I'm like, okay, I have these great lanterns. They're by this company. I found them on Amazon by eTech City, and you just pop them open and it's these LED lights. And I place one by the front door, one in the kitchen, one in the bedroom and the bathroom, so that if the power does go out, I'm not left scrambling scrambling at the last minute trying to find light and flashlights. A lot of people that I speak to say, oh, get the candles, but I'm sorry, I'm not a proponent for candles, especially, living through a fire and how many house fires there are that are started because of candles. So there are, certain things that you can do. If you're a pet owner, make sure that your pets are safe and secure. I also make sure to charge all my phones and all the phone chargers, and make sure I have enough my lighting for reading, but also to charge up any devices. I may download a movie or something in case I'm out without power for quite some time. And of course, during winter storms, you're going to want to keep clear of any down power lines and make sure that you don't drive any standing water. So tell me, what did you guys do to prepare for the winter storms that we all knew were coming? Anybody? Meredith?
Jason?
Yeah, sure. Well, I did what you said as far as looking for things that would blow away. That's one of the first things I did. Wind is a real issue up here, as we all know, and I think I did pretty good about that. And whatever I missed, I didn't have to worry about on the next storm because it had blown away already.
Jeez.
And yeah, but we gas, yes, definitely spare gas for a generator and in the vehicles. And that was mainly it, as wind is our biggest problem. We obviously the mudslides are bad, but living on the top of a ridge, we don't have much watershed above us. So flooding and issues like that aren't a real problem for us on the ridge. But yeah, we just made sure we had the essentials.
Good job. Good job. Ron, were you going to say something? No? Okay.
I'll add one thing. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, no, I was just gonna talk about, firing up the generator every time we have a power outage now. Firing up the generator always causes PTSD. And now I know what PTSD is.
Yeah, sound of it, right?
We had to run a generator so long in 2020.
What kind of generator do you have, Ron?
It's a Furman.
Okay. So it just automatically kicks on, or you have to start it?
So,
You have to start it, or is it automatic start?
no, we did, we restarted and then we just run extension cords.
Okay. Yeah.
We're not
I'm
running
looking
it.
into it now because I'm over these outages. Go ahead, Meredith.
One thing we have are like these temporary water bars, like one that to just direct water, because we do get a lot of rain coming down our long driveway and down, it aims right toward our house. So these are there's two kinds we have. One is like an inflatable, it's like a plastic, you just fill it with water and all of a sudden you have a bar and you can put it across wherever you need to direct the water. And the other one is like, we got them on Amazon as well. It's like a fabric that has some kind of gel that when it gets wet, it poofs up. And you can get them in different lengths.
Mhm.
Let me think if I can remember the name. I'll look it up while I'm here and give you the name of it. It's like Aqua Guard or something. But if you just have like small water problems, it's kind of nice.
Okay, yeah, please send that. I haven't heard of that, so yeah,
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
great, thank you. Okay, so it seems like this group is pretty prepared ahead of time for the storms. I actually did a blog just the first week of January. So if you want to look at my website, there's like 15 or 16 tips on there if you want to get the rest of the tips. So, but let's move on to earthquakes. All right, so I don't know about you, but the way I was raised, if there was an earthquake, I had to run to a door frame and then put my hands between it and just wait for the earthquake to pass. And I always thought this was the way to go until I heard years ago this is actually a myth. The idea of safety in a doorway actually dates back to the 19th century. Back then in California, a lot of the homes were built out of adobe, and the only wood in the house was the wood frame doors. It's interesting because on this beautiful ranch I grew up on, we actually had an original adobe, and my sister would go in there and play, and I always thought it was going to fall on top of us. So when a major quake hit, the adobe crumbled all around, and the only thing that was left standing was the wood frame door. So if you're presently living in a 19th century adobe home, go ahead and stand in front of the wood frame door, but I don't advise it. I'm just joking. But with a strong earthquake, it's best to drop, cover, and hold on under a sturdy piece of furniture. With a wood frame door, you run the risk of the door swinging back and forth on you in a strong quake. We can't even wrap our heads around that unless some of you have been in a 9.0 or a 10.0 earthquake. I have family in Mexico City that have lived through 9 and 10.0 earthquakes. And you've got things flying across the room. You've got the doors going back and forth. So definitely drop, cover, and hold on as the graphic shows. I get a lot of questions. What do I do if I'm in bed and I'm sleeping? A lot of people want to hop up and just jump out of bed. But what I advise you to do is stay in bed until it passes. Gently put a pillow over your face and wait for it to pass. A little trick I do is I keep a pair of tennis shoes underneath my bed with socks in it. So when I do have to get up, I'll have shoes to wear because, in a heavy earthquake, things are going to break and fly across the room. And one of the highest injuries after an earthquake is people coming in with cut feet. So definitely drop, cover, and hold on. Has anybody here been through any massive earthquakes growing up? Ron,
Yeah, a bunch.
Yeah. What's that?
A bunch in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. How big?
The Lemon Theater.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, I was driving to my first World Series game. Suddenly I felt like I had 4 flat tires.
What? Oh, God.
You pull off to the side of the road, and then you suddenly notice everyone else has pulled off to the side of the road, and then you realize your radio doesn't work because the station stopped broadcasting.
Yeah.
So this is not good.
Yeah.
But
No.
one thing I wanted to add though, if you're laying in bed, actually one good idea I heard was to roll over to the side of the bed on the floor, because if something comes crashing down, the actual bed being higher than you are will protect yourself.
That's one I haven't heard. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the idea was there were some people who survived when that double-decker freeway
Uh-huh.
collapsed. If they had rolled out of their car, the top deck would have came down crushed on the
Wow.
top of the car, and they could have survived.
Wow. Okay.
Of course, you have to.
Wow. Thank you for that story. That's actually really helpful. So, yeah. Meredith, you raise your hand or?
Oh, I was just saying, wow, I had never even considered that. Like, so Ron, you're saying if something's, big shake, if those people had gotten out of their car and like kind of gotten under it, like gotten under a bed, they
Not
might
under the car, to the side of it, just rolled
side of
out
the car.
onto the pavement,
Hmm.
side of the car. Then what came down would hit the car, compress the car, if there was a gap.
Okay, not under the car, next to the
Oh,
car.
no, you don't want to be under the car.
Okay, okay.
No. If you do,
Oh,
so,
thank you. God, lots of experience with disasters in this room today. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that's earthquakes. I wanted to touch on home fires because a lot of us are indoors. And I was reading some facts. There's about 1,700 home fires that are started from portable heaters, which equates to about 80 deaths per year. And in 2022, between January 1st and the end of the year, there were, oh goodness, over 1,500 fire fatalities reported by the US media due to a myriad of reasons, home fires, cooking, heating, electrical, intentional fire setting, and smoking. So it's very important, and as I'm sure you know this, to have working fire extinguishers on every floor of your home, as well as carbon monoxide detectors, and just to make sure that those are up to date. So I think that I think some of the best advice that I've gotten from my firefighter friends are these little phrases they've coined, like keep an eye on what you fry, like never leave your kitchen unattended when you're cooking. The most important one, of course, is get out and stay out, no matter what. I just read a story of a woman in New Jersey that their house caught on fire, and she went back in to get her daughter, and she ended up losing her life. So definitely get out and stay out. And then the last one I like to tell people is close before you doze. Does anybody know what that means? And so the premise for that is when you go to sleep at night, close your bedroom door so that if a fire does start on the other side of it and you are aware of it, it buys you, maybe a couple of minutes to exit a different way out of your room, which brings me to talk a little bit about situational awareness. Later on today or tomorrow or whenever, sit in each room of your house and think of at least 2 to 3 ways to get out in the event that there is a fire. And it could be a window or a different door. And that way, if something were to happen, you'd be able to react quickly. And I take this thought with me wherever I go. If I go to a movie theater, it's kind of like being on those airline flights where they tell you where the emergency exits are. I think it's important for all of us to be more aware. We're so stuck in our phones and we don't pay attention a lot that I am a bit of a flight stewardess when I walk in. And I walk into a room, and I was at a luncheon in, a couple of years ago at Spanish Bay, and they had these big tables and the room was just jam packed. And my first thought was, how would I get out of here? If there was a massive earthquake, they had these big chandeliers everywhere. And I scouted out a corner of the room that was clear of a chandelier where I could just kind of drop cover and cover my head and neck in order to protect myself if I couldn't get to a door. Not trying to make you paranoid. I'm just trying to make you a little bit more aware. So, and that's something that you can do right there. So, all right. So let's move on. Let's talk disaster kits. Everyone loves this topic right here. Disaster kits, go bags, bug out bags, whatever you want to call them. It's important to have a disaster kit for each member of your family that can sustain you for up to 72 hours. You want to make sure that you have one for your home. And if you work outside of the home, make sure you have a smaller scale version for your place of work, and one for your car. And don't forget those pets, because they're part of the family too. Now, what do you put inside your disaster kit? You're going to want to make sure that you have enough food and water, a good radio, maps, good old paper maps. I still have those. And you want to make sure you have a good first aid kit. I have a complete list on my website. If you just go to peaceofmindpreparedness.com, right in the middle, enter your email address, it'll automatically get sent to your inbox. And what's really important about disaster kits is that you can personalize them. So which brings us to, do you buy or do you build a disaster kit? That really is up to you and your budget. Some people, well, you can just get an old duffel bag and fill it up with the items from the list, or you can actually buy one. This kit right here in blue, I did a lot of research on kits when I started my business, and I like a good quality kit because there's a lot of really cheap ones out there. And quite frankly, I don't want to have items that are going to break on me if there's a disaster. The point of having these kits is to give you the absolute essential items that you need to survive. You don't have to throw the kitchen sink in there, but if you buy a pre-made one, you have everything that you need, and then all you have to do is personalize it. This bag was created by 2 former firefighters back east, Stuart and Karina Warshaw. The company is called Vollmer Designs, and I've been working with them since 2018. And we decided last year that we wanted a portion of the sales to go to a local organization. And they said, you pick a place in California, and I chose Big Sur Fire. So this is a feel good purchase. So check it out on my website. the less designs. It's under my favorites page, as well as a lot of other products that I recommend to my clients. Again, I don't make any money off of this, but I just really want to share that with you. So how often do you check your kit? My rule of thumb is daylight savings time. It's time when we lose or gain an hour of sleep. It's a good time to check your kit to make sure there's not any expired medications, prescriptions. I wear glasses, so I make sure that I have, every time I go to the eye doctor, I take my old prescription glasses and I put it in my current kit, and then I just kind of rotate that way. And any medications you might take. So how many of you have a good disaster kit out there? Raise your hand. Okay, all right, good. Any questions on this? No, okay, I don't see any, I only see part of you, so let me know, Meredith, we're good. So, all right, which brings us to the communication plan. This I find to be the most important step of disaster preparedness is the communication plan. All right, so now that our bags are packed, where are we gonna go? This is the step that I call family dinner. Think about, for one moment, close your eyes and think about the people in your life that are in your circle, that are in your community. You'd want to know, you'd want to hear from them if something happened, and they'd want to hear from you. Once you've identified those people, have them over for a family dinner now that you've identified them. Just a sidebar, one of the most positive things that came out of these recent weeks of disasters was just how incredibly close our communities are. Case in point, look at all of the different stories that are coming out and what we're hearing from our friends and family about how everyone fared during these incredible storms. How many of you checked in on your family and friends, checked on those that are vulnerable? Scott and I got deployed to, I call it one of my favorite deployments. We got deployed to a neighborhood. Oh my God, it was January 2nd, wasn't it, Scott? In Pacific Grove, where people had been out of power for up to 4 days. And we did something called, knock and talk, where we basically knocked on people's doors to make sure that they were doing okay. And what I got out of it that made my heart swell was how connected the people were in that neighborhood. Wouldn't you say, Scott? Like, it was pretty amazing how everybody was looking out after everyone. And that's kind of the beauty of these small communities that we live here on the Monterey Peninsula that makes me so happy. So whoever your core people, your community are, they could be family, they could be good friends, have them over for dinner and talk about this communication plan. It's so important. What are their phone numbers? I don't know about you, but I can't remember more than maybe 5 phone numbers. And if something were to happen to our phones, wouldn't it be a good idea to write down these phone numbers and share them with our people and make sure that we all have these numbers so when we do gain access to a phone, we can reach each other. It's also a good time to pick that emergency contact person that's not going to be affected by your disaster. A person could be out of state or, whoever you want to pick. So that person can become your hub, so to speak. In massive disasters, phone lines get inundated. So it's always best to text. But once you have that family dinner, figure out who that emergency contact person is. While you're sitting there at your family dinner, talk about emergency spots. So let's say, Meredith, you're home and your wife is in a different place and there's no cell service. Where would you meet and you both can't get home? So I definitely recommend picking 2 meeting spots. Pick landmarks. Pick the community center in Carmel Valley or just someplace you can easily get to. But do bear in mind that one of those areas may not be available due to the disaster. And talk about those areas and review your plan once a year. It's really important. And this is a good time, pass the potatoes, talk about escape routes in your home, which we touched on a couple of minutes ago. Talk about where you would go if you did have to leave town, what hotels you could stay at, what friends you could stay at. Have all that information done ahead of time just from this family dinner. And it's also important to talk about important documents, in the fire of 96 that I had, I will not forget just going with, my family and looking for those important documents, meaning the deed of the house, insurance documents, birth certificates, passport information, all those personal things. This is something that you can do on a rainy day, where you could upload these things to a thumb drive or to the cloud, and you share this information with your trusted friends and family. and maybe someone out of state, so make sure they have your information. An image in my head also was after the Paradise fires, I saw a family being interviewed by a newscaster. You remember those pictures of neighborhoods completely leveled. And there was this one newscaster that was interviewing a family in front of just ashes in their chimney, which is all they had left. And they were just so upset because they said, this is our house, but we can't prove it. And the newscaster said, why not? And they said, because all of our information was in the house. So it's really important to download those important documents and share them with someone, or share them, up on the cloud where they can be easily accessed. So any questions there?
Mhm.
We're doing okay? All right,
Yeah.
we're on the home stretch.
just-
Go ahead.
Put something in the chat of a program or an app that we use to store our documents. Just like you were saying, Wanda, we use 1Password and
I've heard of that
everything's
one.
encrypted. Yeah. And we did that after the fire, because in 2020, we didn't have all of our documents together. And that was such a close call for us. And, a what if that really made us look back and fix some things.
Yeah, that's good. Nothing like a disaster to get our attention, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so going backwards. All right, one of my favorite preparedness quotes. Preparedness, when properly pursued, is a way of life, not a sudden, spectacular program. And, as I said in the beginning, disaster preparedness doesn't have to be done in a month. It doesn't have to be done in a week. If you incorporate small steps and not overwhelm yourself, you can actually get a lot of things done before the end of the year. So I urge all of you I know a lot of you have started. I know Carmel Valley people are tough people, but hopefully you've gotten something out of this, and I've been able to inspire you to take it a step further. And get completely prepared. And so if you have any questions, please see my information right here. At my website, I have a list of my favorite products. I have testimonials, I have blogs, and some seminars and recommendations too. And you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. I don't bombard you, but definitely sign up. And you can also get a disaster preparedness checklist. So I thank all of you for getting up on a Saturday morning to listen to me, to tell my story. And I hope that all of you start out the year and resolve to be ready. So I'd love to take some questions if you have any, or comments.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah,
Thank-
well, thank you. I do have a question though, and thank you for all this great information. We have no excuse not to be more prepared after all this these great ideas. But what happens with us is my partner and I leave town a lot, and so we actually don't have to sit through the storms and the fires necessarily. But that is an issue when, if we're prepared. I get that if you have a kit in your car, you're better off. But things like valuable documents and things like that you might not want to see burned or destroyed. Would it make sense to put them all in one location and kind of check in with your neighbors and say, hey, on your way out as you're evacuating, could you just grab this box that's by the door? Is that a reasonable thing? Or because we are so remote that even had we been in Monterey when the fire started, there is no way we could have gotten back to the house to do anything to prepare.
Wow. It really does depend on the nature of the relationship with your neighbors. I mean, if you have really good neighbors, I would trust my neighbors if they're definitely, that's a great idea. So that's definitely a good idea. But also, what Meredith said, just uploading it to a cloud too is also really important. So you can do that as well. So you have a couple of good choices. That's a good comment. Thanks, Jason.
Okay,
Anybody else?
Yeah, Jason, I was just going to add on to that. If you feel uncomfortable putting your documents in this nebulous cloud, just photographing them and putting them all on a folder on your phone, then you at least have a copy somewhere.
And also for insurance purposes too, just take your camera and just go through your house and just, take a video. And I've sent that to my insurance people, and it's a nice gives me peace of mind right there that I have that right there. So they have a record of it as well. So anybody else have some tips that I may not have mentioned? Ron,
We bought a fireproof safe.
excellent,
So physical documents, all the important ones are in that safe.
fantastic.
Backups to our computers. Too. So that, you know,
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
it was 24 or 38 hours at 3,000 reviews or something.
yeah. And I'd also remind you, when you're doing the disaster kit, and hopefully it sounds like a few of you actually have one, make sure to check it. Because, as I said, water expires, food expires. If you have kids or grandkids, children grow. If you have, extra outfits in there and things like that. So make sure to check all of that, and make sure you can lift it. I had a client that was so proud in the Valley that wanted to show me their disaster kit, and it was in a barn behind a lot of holiday decorations and cobwebs, and they got it down. I think it was from 1981. And I appreciate the effort, but I said, let's start over. So make sure that it's up to date and has what you need. So yeah. Any other comments or questions? This is my favorite part where we can learn more from each other. And if not, that's okay too.
I think this has been a wonderful, because it's very specific. You can do this, you can look at this product or go to this app. I mean, I love presentations that are practical, and this was really, really helpful. It got me thinking about our kit that Betsy mentioned, which we probably, Betsy, have not looked at since we showed it to you. So we probably should work on that. So I really appreciate it. This is a wonderful refresher reminder. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. And here's my website where you can just look at all the tabs. When you have a minute, go check that out. And hopefully lots of information that'll be helpful to you guys. And check out my blog too. So, but thank you all for sharing your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy this dry out.
Yes.
Thanks,
Okay.
Wanda.
Have a
Thank you.
nice weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Joanne and Scott. Take